we are going to discuss another important point from economics lesson. We are always we are hearing a word called development, a common so familiar term for each and every one of you. Development, here we have many definitions also according to our own life situations or according to our ambitions, etc. So exactly, while we are taking care about development, most probably we are thinking about the economic development of person or countries. And while we are using a term called developed countries, we are thinking about the extremely self-sufficient countries, especially in case of economical or in any other machineries, etc. So development is a common term that is so easy to use in economic lessons also, because economics mainly meant for money or the financial purpose. So the first lesson we are going to discuss today, that is development. We know that every one of we people also have our own ideas what we need to be in future. If someone is asking about us what is our ambition, we will be having many different types of ambition will be there. Most probably, many of the ambitions that we are keeping in our mind will be mainly based on our family background or social background or religious background or especially economical background. But everyone will be having his own or her own development. So, we can study one term here called developmental goal. That means a goal or a aim that we are keeping in our mind to achieve in our lifetime. That is called a developmental goal. A stern decision or a intense longing that we are keeping in our mind to achieve in our lifetime is called a developmental goal. It may be vary from person to person, because we know that all individuals are entirely different from one to another. Maybe in our nature or in our thoughts or in our attitudes or in our economical or education or cultural or religious background. Many of the developmental goal will be closely linked to the background in which we are born and brought up. So, according to our economical condition or family background, our developmental goal also may be vary from person to person. So, that is what we need to study here, that how can we consider about whether a nation is developed or not. How a person's development can be assessed. These two important points we need to discuss today. Commonly, we are considering a person or a country as developed is mainly based on the income in his pocket or the money in his pocket. Rich persons are considering as developed persons, or poor persons need much support from either any cons of, that is what you can say, from government side or from other sections, etc. need to develop. So income is considering as one of the most important aspect to consider a person or to measure development of persons and countries. But we know that in case of personal development, money is one of the most important factor that we need to accept. But whether money alone can do everything for a man, whether money alone needed to make a man's life satisfied, no. Other than money, some another important aspects that every person hoping to enjoy in his life together makes that man develop. That means even though some rich persons still afraid about their security or the consideration that they didn't get from the society, and many other for what you can say silliest sentiments also can be there. So we can say that along with income or money, some other important extraordinary aspects that makes a man to fulfill many of his needs, especially in the life or in the form of respect, education or health or equality in society or security or love and affection, etc. also is compulsory for a person to enjoy in his life to consider as a well-developed personality. All these facts are making that person really a great individual. If someone is losing or something is losing in his life, its defect will be there in his nature, on his behavior also. So money cannot do everything, but money can be one of the important character or important factor. And we told that development may be or developmental goal may be differ from one person to another. It may be according to the background in which he born and brought up. But we can say one another important fact also, that development for a person may not be development for another. That means here in case of our nation or in case of our own locality, our government officials or government institutions etc. introducing lot of different type of developmental activities in the form of establishment of new industries or factories in some other localities, or many other new development economically developing institutions also. But we know that it is a factor for that persons or the owners, that while in establishing such factories or industries etc. in a particular locality, it gives them really benefit or profit will be there for them. But one another section of people also considering these introducing institutions or establishments as a matter of difficulties for them, especially the people those who are living into such locality. They are considering that institutions or buildings may cause many different type of casualties for their life and their nature. So development for one may not be development for another. So that also is another important phase of development. So development may be differ from person to person, and development of a person may not be development for another person. Two important facts are there in the case of studying about development. And we studied that money is one of the important factor, but along with the money, for a person's total development, many other important facts or important aspects also needed. We know that income or money in our pocket is not sufficient to consider a person as developed or not. He needs many other things, just like love, affection, etc. that we told. But whether a country can be considered as developed or not only based on income? As we know, income is the basic criterion to consider a country developed or not. There is no doubt. But in case of development of nations also, it is only using that income is using only to consider that nations whether it is developed or not among other countries of the world. That means that income is considering only as a comparison. Where also we need to study one important thing, that total national income cannot be considered as a matter of nation's development, because the population of that country may be totally vary. Sometimes huge populated countries will be there and their national income sometimes vary from other countries of the world etc. So to compare countries of the world and to get an idea about whether these nations are developed or not, a term called average income is considering as one of the important criteria to check a nation's development. Average income means the income that earning by each and every individual of a country. It is not easy to calculate that average income. And that average income is also called per capita income. Per capita stands for per head. What is the earning of each individual of a nation? So this average income or per capita income is helping to compare countries of the world to know the developmental status of them. We can calculate average income by dividing the total income of a nation by its total population. That amount is called average income. That means each and every individual is getting that particular amount. So World Bank is using average income or per capita income as the important criterion to categorize or to classify countries on the basis of the development. And the highly average or the countries having high or huge income, huge average income is considered as developed countries, or it can be developing nations, or maybe underdeveloped countries. Three classifications can be possible by this average income. But we know that average income is useful for comparison, but it has some limitations that we can study now. One of the important limitation of using average income for considering a country's national development is that it hiding some of the important disparities. Many of the disparities between people will be hidden by the average income. It do not give a clear idea about how the people are. And the second limitation or the second problem with the using average income is that it does not tell the distribution of money among the people, how much they are getting. And also the third one can be considered as it do not give a clear picture about the life standard of each individual. So even though it is useful, it has some limitations also. In order to get a correct or clear picture about countries of the world, United Nations Development Program publishing a report called Human Development Index (HDI). As per this, along with income, some other important aspects also are taken care to consider a nation's development. They are educational level, then health status and per capita income. Three important aspects together makes a nations to get a clear idea about the country's development or not. So in the educational level, we can add some two words just like the literacy rate. Literacy rate stands for the number of people getting educated, especially below or between 7 to 14 years of age. The number of children, those who are getting educated, especially primary education, between the age of 7 to 14 years are called the literacy rate. If the literacy rate or the number of students getting education in this period of time of a country is higher, it can be one of the important good indicator to consider that country as a little bit developed. So, educational level including literacy rate and net attendance ratio is another important factor in the education level. That is, net attendance ratio means the number of students or children between the age of 14 and 15 who are attending school. So, if the number of students between 14 and 15 in a rural area especially is high in a country, that is called or that also is a positive indicator to identify that country's development. Then here we know that the another health status. Health status as per HDI, health status mainly stands for the proper health or nutritious lifestyle, where need to study one term called infant mortality rate, IMR. IMR stands for the number of children, newborn children that dying before their first birthday, that means before 1 year. Number of dying newborns before 1 year, that is considered as IMR. Increasing IMR is a symbol of not the development of that nation but poor medical care. So along with the literacy rate or per capita income is increasing, literacy this one IMR should not be high. IMR must be coming to lower stage. IMR stands for the best health care given for mothers and also for the newborns. Whenever health care of that country is very high, the IMR will be very low. That means newborns may have very less chance to lose their life. So, education, health and income. Three important indicators are arranged by HDI along with all other aspects of life to consider a nation whether it is developed or not. So, net attendance ratio is important, IMR is very special, then average income of every countries are important. So, personal or national development should not be confined into the money in the pocket of each individual or in the national treasury. It is something more beyond that money. That is, for a person, respect or equal situation where people are living together without having no scope of any kind of discrimination, feeling equality or security, and also have any other status in society, and also the sentiments just like fear, love, affection, etc. need to get for a person to consider his total development. And for a nation, along with the income, their educational quality or health care situations, etc., also very important to consider total development of that nation, not with the average income, because we told that average income hiding many other important aspects of life. It does not give any idea about the educational level of that individual, or also will not give any idea about whether that person is healthy or not. So, national or personal development need more aspects other than income. So, we can conclude this lesson by saying that for a person's development, we must give proper training, education, healthcare, etc. for his continuous development. And for a nation also, in order to consider that nation is developing and developing every time, need to make sure about the uses of its natural resources mainly. We know that mainly for a nation's development, natural resources have its own role. And the major two important natural resources that we need to stick on every time, that renewable or non-renewable. Renewable resources are to be depended mainly for every type of nation's development in the form of energy resources or for industrial purpose or for every other thing, because it will renew every time, will not have any problem. So, renewable resources alone makes a nation's sustainable development, or development will be for a short period of time, and the developmental activities may be came to an end after the continuous use of renewable resources. So, non-renewable resources need to make in one side, and renewable resources can be used continuously for sustainable development. Developmental activities need to continue by using renewable resources, or else sustainability may not be possible, because for a short period of time that non-renewable resources may be available, and depending on that non-renewable resources, if you have started any factories or industries or any other developmental processes, that may came to an end as due to shortage of that particular resources. So, making sure about the sustainable development is very important for nation's development. So, children, we have discussed all most important points from the chapter: development, personal development or national development. It may be entirely different from one person to another, especially developmental goal, because of our many backgrounds. And national development also need to assure, not because of or not based on the income, but many other aspects also need to be taken care. So, we have completed that first chapter now. Thank you. Have a nice day.